Tom Hill, you know, to fucking Rev, like, I've done the whole the gamut of soil building. Well, we got that nice big soil mixer. We're building our own soil for years, and when we started doing side-by-sides in our 6-inch pots, and we used to run, what, 1 gallon? Well, in my shepherd shop, even we would run these 3.5 gallons for beds, but you waste so much soil, you gotta take so much bigger pots, you fill up your beds too fast, so we use 6-inch pots. But when I started using 6-inch pots, we were doing side-by-sides of KISS soil versus our in-house soil, and at the end of our, like, 18-day bed cycle, popping those roots out, seeing the plant difference, it was like, okay, so now all my veg soil I actually buy from KISS. I buy just a truckload a year, and that lasts me the whole time. And that's basically, so I use veg soil KISS, and then everything else comes from the soil never changes. It's just there forever. So this is our mom room. You guys, you can come further in if anyone can't hear us. This is where we obviously store all our genetics and clone from them. They were chopped back, what, earlier this week?
Last week.
Middle last week. Essentially, everything's on a 3-week harvest cycle here. So every 3 weeks we harvest one of our greenhouses. So every 3 weeks he has a cloning event for 2 rounds from now, 2 harvests from now's greenhouse. So basically, every 3 weeks he clones. Connor here is our propagation. He does all the moms and cloning events, and then if we sell any genetics or clones too, he'll do those. So all of our veg cycles are on all of our veg, our cloning, and our drying rooms are all on 2-week cycles. Our harvest events are on 3-week cycles. That gives us just a little wiggle room on either end. You always have like 3 days either way. If you need to harvest something early, either just because it's done sooner, or let's say you have an issue and you want to like harvest early, but that window gives us a nice little wiggle room, a nice little zone. So after this tour, we're going to have like a 45-minute question and answer with our team. So if it's like in-depth questions, Connor will be available. I got about 6 minutes per zone to keep you guys cycling. In my tours, I'm a talker. I can make it 3 hours long, so I'm kind of trying. Danny will keep us moving. But write down any questions you have, because the whole team will be available for questions at the end. You're also welcome to ask any now, but like,
I'll give the quick version, most common questions. We typically keep moms for about 4 months before we look at replacing them. We've got several different age classes back here, always rotating age classes. About a third of the room is young like this, about a third of it is middle-aged around this. Typically we chop back and bring back to about 8 to 10 inches of canopy before they regrow. So we're about a week into regrowth right now, and we'll grow the week after next. Amend about once a month with the nitrogen source, and do micronutrient adjustments based off soil tests. We do regular root shield applications, and IPM is very strict back here as well. So
still hand water the moms. It's about the only spot in the facility that we're still on hand watering, just because it doesn't take all that much time in the grand scheme of things, and each one is a little bit different because of different age classes. Everywhere else, all the other rooms are actually the same age class. These, they dry out the slowest because it's not like we're like trying to bump growth in here quite so much. People are often always impressed with these like unistrut racks. It's just fucking unistrut wheels, but it seems to evade many people the concept of Legos and wheels to be able to move your. But living soil, that is one thing that I think a lot of people don't have, is like living soil mom rooms.
When we do a deep clean, it comes in handy. We move all the beds to the side, clean one side of the room, move back. So we shift around somewhat regularly. In front of this room, obviously no side light, so we kind of rotate beds and shift things around, just kind of keep everything even throughout here.
These are all
GE lights.
GE lights. Now, I've gone through every single kind of light you can imagine, and the reason I went with GE, I don't even think they're 100% my favorite light in the world. I went with GE because I wanted someone to honor a warranty that would actually be there in 5 years instead of fucking buying all science lights and then they go out of business, and so GE, because GE's been around the longest.
They're not cannabis specific, which is
not
huge.
cannabis specific, but mostly warranty. It's very important to have a good warranty, and like I don't need all kinds of crazy spectrum adjustability, although we do have some.
Well, ironically, we haven't had an issue with these lights in 3.5 years.
They're
Never
fucking
had
awesome.
to replace one of them. So.
And the GEs in the hoop are in the nice greenhouses that did go down, warranty, just like that. Like, praise
Couple
Jesus.
quick questions about IPM. Like, what pests have you guys dealt with in these rooms?
In the mom room specifically,
Yeah.
it's usually pretty mild. We'll occasionally see an aphid. I mean, most of it's pretty seasonal. So in the summer, we'll occasionally see a spider mite, a thrip, an aphid. I've never had anything that overtook more than this part of a plant or something like that. I mean, we can keep a pretty strict schedule back here. We spray once a week in the summer. Sometimes we'll double that up. If we have any problems next door, we know the hoop houses have bad problems, we'll double up on that. But
And if you guys are
He's
putting-
got the biggest quiver of options because this is in flower, so he can fucking
Yeah.
he can spray the whole regiment as kind of as much as you need to. You got the easiest IPM job because you run out of options real quick the further into flower you get. You know what I mean?
2 weeks, that's it. I don't
Yeah.
spray anything past 2 weeks.
Exactly.
If I can.
Yeah, so he can always use almost any of our products.
Yeah.
the greenhouse will shift to biologicals.
We had an issue this year with root aphids, and
Okay.
it was trying, and yeah, because we're surrounded by a vegetable farm,
Yeah.
and so like I was talking about that with Nadia, it was a problem. You
Yeah.
know, root aphids are like, okay, let's chop it and get rid of them. You know,
Yeah,
it's
feel,
like,
feel free to talk to me about it later,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we've,
for sure.
we've encountered several different kinds of aphids,
Yep.
and they're all, I mean, sometimes you don't need to treat them as aggressively as you think. We
Yeah.
haven't really ever gotten to the start over phase. You
Yeah.
can usually kind of apply, Bavaria bassiana to
Over
soil.
the years, we've actually done more damage by trying to kill the boogeyman
yeah,
with treatments. We've done more damage to our plants than what with living soil, and some of these plants get strong, healthy, and they can actually outgrow and perform. And we've actually had most of our major fuck ups have been from the treatment, not the disease.
Yeah. there's a new Bavaria bassiana out there. It's called Principle. It's from Bioworks.
Okay, yeah, I do know about that.
Yeah,
They've talked
I
to us about that.
started using that.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Well, we'll bump over.
Yeah, feel free to ask.
We'll talk.
What is our water level here?
Usually around 800. Yeah. Yes, ish, yeah. Yeah, 'cause the whole building's at 100 actually. Oh my god. I actually think it's like 23 by 60 or something like that, but yeah.
How many mothers do you have?
We have 36 beds, so 2 per bed, so about... Some stuff fluctuates. Our schedule for different strains changes a lot, so... These are 3 gallons of beer replacement bottles. So I have
some absolutely amazing stuff here, man. We're learning a lot today about the different processes and the different things that they have going here for Collective Elevations and their farm. I mean, so far I have been impressed with the amount of technology, the equipment that has come into their amount of equipment. Yeah, it's been quite impressive.
This is a little bit smaller age class than we typically plant. I harvested the last greenhouse in here on about day 63, so rather than let it sit empty for the conference and give these guys 5 extra days that I would normally do, we just transplanted these. But this is about 5 days younger and smaller than we normally transplant. Other than that, we have HAM. These are next-gen greenhouses. The other 2 are Nexuses. In the wintertime, we'll use the roof vents and the gable exhausts. In the summertime, we're basically just doing mass airflow across with the big fans. What else? We run Netafim irrigation, pretty much hydro style. That's been a big game changer for us. For so long, we fucked with glue mats, and I mean, if you name it, we've tried to irrigate with it. But from a consistency standpoint, it's hard to beat that hydro style. So we'll actually irrigate. Let me see if I can. Everything basically runs off of our Wadsworth control system. can't say enough good things about Wadsworth. If you're into greenhouses, they kick ass. Let's see, what else is there? Let me see if I can turn on some of these irrigations. So we can control everything in here from our phone. A couple of the unique things it'll do here. So I have the lights set up on different zones. So basically, one of the beauties of a greenhouse like this, so all of our aspirator, our sensors are in the middle at about where canopy level will be. So basically, the sun goes behind a cloud. These lights are going to dim up 10%, 20%. We're trying to hit 750, 800 par in here. Of course, on the hottest, the brightest days of summer, it's 1700 par in here. And at that time, I do accumulated DLI. So basically, when we hit 35,000, it'll just basically not give them any more light for the day, even if the clouds do, or if it does come out. So basically, like right now, you see those two zones. So in the wintertime in Montana, this is the north greenhouse. So the south wall of it actually gets shaded out as the sun dips for the winter. So this is something I learned from building those other ones first, was my south row was always getting way less light. So I'm getting more larfier, more likely to get PM, just different growth issues. So now I actually have these zones set up so when the sun's out, you can actually see we're lightly shading, because these guys have only been in real sun for 2 days. These curtains are at about 35%, and that's just kind of give them a little bit of break so you don't have such a drastic go from perfect BPD, 68%, 70% humidity and lower light, to Montana sunshine and low BPD. You get a lot of stress. You can even see these plants are a little stressed. There's just a tiny bit of curling, gentle tacoing. They're saying whew, this is, they're overall pretty healthy, but you can tell they're just a little serrated. They're a little dry, maybe a little too much transpiration going on. Their root system hasn't developed properly yet. But basically, now you can see it's partially because of this smoke. These lights, I actually only have these set to, I think, 550. So one thing that we'll say, as the sun moves throughout the day with this shading system, it'll cover that sensor, so sometimes these lights will pop on. When I'm already trying to limit the light, these north sides shouldn't actually be on, and I'll typically override that. I have it, for the first 3 days, I'll just override the lights all day. I have it normal, just so I can, as a talking point, that basically says the reason why these no one can touch our cost per unit on it compared to an indoor grow, because when the sun's out, these lights are off. Also, of course, we all know the benefits of living soil and how cost effective it is from a nutrient and fertility perspective. But also, all these indoor grows are running 12 hours of lights a day, or 18 if you're in veg. These guys might be on 2 hours on a hot summer day only in the morning. So there's tons of cost savings, basically letting Mother Nature do its thing, and then adding stability when Mother Nature's doing something that maybe a plant doesn't want. So basically that's what's going on here. So those 2 rows of lights in the wintertime are going to be on pretty much all the time, whereas these 4 rows of lights are actually going to be reading the sun. Sun goes behind a cloud, they're on. Sun is out, they're off. So basically I have them set up for different zones. That's kind of, that's actually Northern Hemisphere specific. So anybody who is building 2 greenhouses next to them, I highly recommend you account for that south row, because I didn't on my first one, and to this day you still get and there you go. So that's actually the lag time, because what happens if the sun goes behind a cloud, I need 2 minutes for everything to adjust. Otherwise my lights are always going on, off, on, off, on, off. Even that's a little tight, and I would normally just override that for the whole day for the next 3 days, but it's a talking point. So it kind of shows you that I'm setting these parameters. Now I have 3 distinct parameters that I set to. So I have my baseline parameters. So winter in Montana, where it gets 40 below and we have lower light, way more lights on. Even when the sun's out, I got the lights on. In the summertime, way less light, and we're just letting the sun do its thing. And then in winter and fall are about the same. So we basically have 3 safe templates, and then that'll get me 90% of the way to where I want them any given time. However, if I want to nerd out and I'm not doing office work, I'll come in and micro adjust those 10%. Because in the wintertime, I'm actually doing a cooling mechanism where I heat it up to 83 degrees and I let it naturally cool down, and then I heat it up again. In the summertime, I'm actually cooling it to 76, and I'm letting naturally heat up. So we're actually operating under different mechanisms, summer and winter. Wintertime, this basically seals up, and we rely on the airflow in this HAF racetrack pattern. In the summertime, it's basically just mass airflow drifting across the top. I'll go to the next zone. You guys can ask any questions if you want.
Notice that you guys don't run cover crops and you're just running cocoa for your mulch.
Yeah, so I rotate through 3 different. So that's another issue of convention there. I am not a fan of living mulches, cover crops, primarily because, once you get a problem, you can't get rid of them, and then it's such a bitch. So I'm not going to walk too far into this one. This is like a better example of our cannabis. I do have a couple of issues in here. I've got some unusual green crack stretching going on, and I just found a few spider mites over there. So I'm not going in that, but also because this is identical to our other greenhouse, you kind of get the idea, and we're going into a younger age class. So everything here goes downstream from our cleanest, which is our mom room, to a younger age class. We'll go to, I'm following age classes, and this one's kind of off, plus the fact that I did just find a little problem in there. Which also I'm self-conscious about, but I'm sure you guys have had a problem too.
I'm loving, like, you guys are, you're doing the 2 plants down, and then you're doing these socks. And that sock is like,
yep, these buck socks have been a game changer for us. If you guys want to, I can pop in so you guys can come and see.
Were you dealing with PM and
yeah, so when I first built this, and it's kind of funny how Nadia was like, oh, looking at this design, I bet this could happen. I'm like, that did happen, and here's how I fix it. Like, she could just intuitively, I should have fucking hired her the first time instead of having to go through the School of Hard Knocks for 5 years.
God.
Long story short, though, what happens is we get some microclimates, we get more humidity on that end, and that's where we were getting back in the day, more botrytis or PM. And so first I just started putting in more dehumidification, and after I basically put in, a new truck's worth of dehumidification, I said, okay, I'm not addressing my core issues here. I'm just trying to throw more money at this. So then I switched our airflow from BAF to HAF. That helped a little bit. We added these duck socks. That helped a little bit. And just basically, sometimes it's easier than just like trying to throw new equipment at the fucker to just like, let's just go back to the drawing board and let's look at our core problem here, which was airflow. Now, that coupled with using botrytis, or Botristop rather, we haven't seen any mildew in a long time. We're actually crushing. Now that's actually for botrytis.
How do you spray that? Like, when do you spray that?
That's one of the things that you'll do like when there's like 3 weeks in, and because it's a microbial. Now I was actually a little bit nervous about that because I didn't want my flower to fail a microbial test. Haven't had any issues. We get a little bit more wary or less wary with it all the time, you know what I mean? So no issues as far as like our microbials on testing. So 3 to 4 weeks. You could ask Clifton that, so like when there is some buds, but like I said, that's a microbial. It's not a pesticide per se. Even so, you're like, oh, I'm spraying something, it's a little nerve-wracking, but Botristop, yeah. It's spelled like Botrytis with the stop at the end. And that actually has been a game changer for us, and because it's just been, I really love it. So we run like Netafim hydro-style irrigation. You saw over there we were using cocoa. So I don't use it because of bugs, and also it's harder for me to do the finger test on soil moisture with living mulch, any sort of, so I rotate between wood chips, cocoa, and the cocoa I really like. It's hard to beat, but from a sustainability standpoint, the nice thing is it's a byproduct. The bad thing is it's a byproduct from fucking Sri Lanka, so I got to ship it over. So it kind of blends up. That being said, wood chips, I don't want to stir 4 rounds of wood chips into my soil. You can get nitrogen robbing, you can start to fuck with your texture. So I'll run 2 rounds of wood chips, and in between rounds, I'll actually pile them up in the center so that it doesn't actually get all stirred in. Now also, because we don't do like a very much of a till, we're actually using a slurry for our amendment. Instead of amending with dry amendments, which is just from a breathing it perspective, from a mess, from a dehumidifier filter perspective from the top of your lights getting dirty and muddy. So we don't actually dry amend anymore. We put all our dry amendments into a slurry. We brew it up and then we water it in, and then you don't have to even disturb that soil hardly at all. So we can just like pile our wood chips in the center, slurry based on whatever our fertility, soil tests say, and then plant, and we kind of push our wood chips back and add in. So I'll use 2 rounds of wood chips, and then I'll use 2 rounds of cocoa. I used to use peat moss, but I tended to have more fusarium with the peat moss. It almost like it held more moisture, but because I actually was trying to lower my soil pH, I liked the idea of peat moss, but I was occasionally, and then we never had much of a fusarium issue, but one's too many. So I now use wood chips and cocoa for my mulch layers. I dream of adding in straw, but I'm working on a pasteurization process to mass pasteurize my straw. And so actually a mushroom grower down the street, buddy of mine, is getting rid of a bunch of milk tanks that he uses as little kilns for pasteurization, and they weren't working for him because it held heat too long. So I might grab those from him, start pasteurizing my straw, and add a 3rd thing in. So we do about 4.5 rounds a year, 2 rounds of wood chips, 2 rounds of cocoa. That's our mulch layers. I would love to add in straw, but I'm wary of
bringing in aspergillus.
Exactly.
Because I tested straw that we got off the farm, and we were bringing aspergillus in. Now let me ask you, when you're irrigation events, are you using aerometers, or are you?
Yep, we use aerometers, and that it says on our it is we actually have a newer one now. You should ask Jared about that, because I've had every single soil moisture that exists.
Absolutely amazing, and we will be continuing to film today. You'll see more clips come out as well, so stay tuned. We will be producing a bunch of content today, so yeah, stay tuned, and we will be showing you some cool stuff. All right, peace and much love. Until the next time, we'll see you guys then.